Hello and welcome to Rauta's non-metal reviews. This time we talk about a classic band, an old school name, Pitchshifter. This is Peel Sessions 1991-1993, a BBC recordings. Now, old school metalheads obviously remember Peel Sessions for a lot of different, say, cult things, cult recordings, cult releases already decades ago. We're talking about the Napalm Deaths and Ball Throwers and whatnot. Obviously, this goes way beyond metal, to Beatles era and of course all that. But this time we're focusing on a cult act which is often considered more or less creators of death industrial. But Pitchshifter is more than that, so let's dive in to this world of this particular recording. Obviously this video is way too short to go through the career, and not that I would really be an expert to talk about that. But this release goes back more than 30 years. It's a nice looking, but rather simplistic 3-folding digipack release, which features not only band photos, but some creatures here. Now, musically, this is a rather interesting take because indeed it goes back, shows you back in history. But musically, this is more like noisier rock meeting industrial elements. So, does it really count as metal? Borderline. Does it count as rock? Surely, but hardly. Does it count as industrial? Definitely. But how do you compare this to nowadays music? Well, that's a tricky one, and I don't know if I do have the answers for you. But because this band is not so much metal than something else, instead of Metal Archives, I'll use the Pitchshifter Bandcamp site for background. So, whatever started already in the 1980s in UK has resulted in a lot of recordings. This is just a glimpse to it. Probably Discogs has way much more, but this shall work as a background. So, musically, you will hear a lot of rocking riffs. I'm talking about the old school rocking riffs, but not old school as, the Beatles era or beyond. We're talking about the early 90s. Actually, the momentum where you just kind of move on from the 80s towards 90s. And that's where a lot of these things, especially in the UK area, started happening. We're talking about the era when grindcore was born with bands such as Napalm Death. And then again, all these hardcore punk things were kind of shifting and changing. I mean, that's when death metal started really going on, from the UK as well. So grind, death metal, industrial, even a lot of early dark ambient names came to be. So this was a place, era, time really, where all these different, genres started overlapping. A lot of crossover things were going on, and obviously I'm too young to say I was there. I wasn't in the UK in the 80s or 90s for that matter. So obviously I cannot say I was there to witness it. But of course, going through a lot of recordings back in the days, and nowadays too, you will see that there are lots of these roots where are kind of entangled with one another. And Pitchshifter played their own part of creating their unique sound. I mean, after all, you will see, or more like hear, that it has a certain level of metallic thing going on. So sometimes calling it a little bit lighter in terms of metal would do just justice to it, as well as saying it's just, a heavier rock and roll. Because there is this industrial thing which rather puts them in a whole different box. And while I'm mentioning grind and death metal, sure, you have a certain wider, bigger scene in the whole scope of things going on, which would then again work as an umbrella term for a lot of these bands. But then again, Pitchshifter is not something that you would probably, confuse for a lot of grindy acts or death metal acts or even punk acts, even though these are more or less connected. Well, like I said, bigger scope. I probably have some mistakes here or there, and you will now notice that audience will be in the comment section. Excuse me, sir, you have this mistake, or blah, blah, blah. But goes beyond the scope of this video once again. We're here talking about this MCD, which lasts about 20 plus something minutes. And this already showcases you the early 90s of Pitchshifter. So once again, you will have a lot of those industrial elements. And in a way, it kind of reminds me what Ministry sounded like back in the days. We're talking about the Psalm 69 stuff, but less American way, obviously. So there is this overlapping of metallic stuff and rock and rollish stuff, and of course the kind of a punkier attitude, DIY mentality. And then again, these industrial elements, which probably define the MCD more than anything. Now Cold Spring has released this one early 2025. I couldn't really find the proper release date for this one, even though I got this piece of paper, promo letter, old school ways. Even this doesn't really specify the release date, but I don't know if it does even matter. Like, this is anyway old school as it comes. And like I said, this is from 1991 to 1993, and already been there a few years since they started in the late 80s. Now, those who want their dip of history, either with a physical format known as the CD or vinyl, are now happy that they have the possibility to get one through Cold Spring Records. I find it fascinating, and this very, very much sounds like those times. Back in the days, I would have definitely been way too narrow-minded for this kind of music. Now I find it way more interesting because obviously there's more experience in my life when it comes to different kind of music than not just extreme metal. And also because this feels like a time capsule, taking a small piece even from that time and putting it here in 2025. So it's an interesting release, taking you back in those days when Peel Sessions were something like, oh, and he released Peel Sessions. Wow, we should definitely check it out. So those who know what I'm talking about, check this one out. And for newer school of people, the new generation and all, maybe it's time for you to get enlightened what Peel Sessions is all about. Maybe it's time for you to check out what Pitchshifter is all about. Oh, one thing what I wanted to show you. It's pretty interesting. Here it is, written as Pitchshifter, whereas in everything else it's just Pitchshifter all together. So in case you're Googling, make sure you type it like this. All right, off you go, and see the links provided for more information and social media for the given band.